We see Andrea Mengucci today for the first time. Let's get right down to the battlefield. All right, and we see Andrea starting off with a tapped Sacred Foundry as Maya starts out on a forest, but no hexproof creature just yet.
Oh bad. It is actually Infect. It is actually a different type of. It's pretty similar. It's pretty similar.
Yeah,
our explanation still somehow works, but it's not Boggles. It's Infect. So they're trying to deal 10 poison damage, in one swoop here with.
Yeah, Inkmoth Nexus entering the battlefield. Would you say that Inkmoth Nexus is the best source of Infect damage for the deck?
I mean, Inkmoth Nexus as a land, it's very tough to deal with. It's a flyer. You can play it without having it exposed to removal immediately.
Yeah.
Like
we just saw Renin 6 there in Andrea Mengucci's deck. That's like a great removal card for Andrea when it comes to Blighted Agent. What's the other one? Glistener
Elf. Absolutely. So Inkmoth goes around some of the sweepers. Renin 6, as you pointed out, big one in the format
right now. Is that a Prismatic Ending? That's another card that it dodges.
Absolutely.
So might become very important later in this match. What do you think is the difference between, we explained Bogles, what's the difference between Bogles and Infect in this situation? Where's the main upside and maybe downside of playing Infect now?
Well, Bogles has hexproof creatures, but they don't have evasion in themselves. So you have to pump them up, give them pants, right? You gotta give them trample or flying. So you gotta draw your appropriate auras to do so. In the in the Infect deck, you have already evasion in terms of flying with the Inkmoth Nexus, or it looks to be a black Infect list. So they might have Phyrexian Crusader, which has like protection from white and red. And they have I don't know what the 2-mana 1/1 flying. What's happening here?
Well, that was an activation of the Inkmoth Nexus. It was a scale up cast on the Inkmoth Nexus, and Andrea has one of the few ways to deal with that card at instant speed, no questions asked. Solitude.
Yeah, that is, especially with the Teferi in play. Usually the Infect deck has some hexproof to protect their creatures, but with Teferi in play, no protecting. And that was a crucial turn 3 here for
him. Because now, without a second Inkmoth Nexus, it's going to be very tough for Maya to stick a creature on the board. There's a Teferi in play, and there's a bunch of removal at sorcery speed in Andrea's deck.
Yeah. This is a tough situation. That was a huge blow, a huge tempo swing. She wanted to get 6 Infect in, which would have been great, and then likely kill in the next turn. But that Solitude crushed any hopes of that.
Yeah, so now it's an uphill battle for Maya going forward, playing a Pendelhaven here, considering her options, and I do see a Phyrexian Crusader looming in Maya's hand. Unfortunately, no second black source available, so she just has to pass the turn. What do you think of that? Like, is that just game over very soon?
Well, you don't want to call a match too soon, but it is not looking great. The Crusader could have helped. Protection from white is very nice against Andrea's removal suit and against the Teferi bounce.
How does protection from white interact with Prismatic Ending?
I believe it cannot be targeted. From Prismatic Ending is a white X. I'm pretty sure it cannot be targeted by that.
Indeed. Prismatic Ending does say exile target non-land permanent, so protection from white does help there. There are some, other cards like Council's Judgment that don't even target at all. But yeah, Prismatic Ending also not good against the Phyrexian Crusader.
It's not a common card.
It's not, but we do see it enter the battlefield now as Maya picks up a Verdant Catacombs to fetch a second black source. So does Andrea have to fear about his life very soon?
I mean, as far as I can tell, Andrea has a Prismatic Ending, a Teferi in play, a Teferi in hand, and I think that's a Kiki-Jiki and an island? Snow-covered island?
Kiki-Jiki in hand is very awkward. We don't have deck lists yet, but maybe that's the only one in the deck, so that can get really awkward. And, I mean, Kiki-Jiki on your Yorion does sound enticing, but there's a Solitude that can't deal with the Dreadnought.
Actually, Kiki Jiki says non-legendary creature, so it cannot copy the Yorion.
Well, that's my bad.
Yeah, no worries about that. But here we have a Phyrexian Crusader coming to the board.
And that's a Rancor added right now, so Andrea even knows that it's already hitting in for 4 next turn.
I mean...
And now he has to do everything to find an answer to the Crusader.
Oh, I see a Karmic Guide in Andrea's hand. That's another combo piece drawn. That is not what you want to see.
No, not at all.
Although it is so good here, where it could technically get the Solitude back, and then, but Crusader says no.
Yeah. So Andrea bouncing his own Oath of Nissa, taking a look at as many cards as possible by drawing another card with Teferi and taking another look at the top 3 cards with the Oath. But I don't think there was an answer in there. So with Maya's hand being a scale up, that's 8 points of damage next turn. And that's a Vivien added to Andrea's hand. That's part of the combo. So now maybe we're looking at a combo turn next turn, depending on what's left in Andrea's deck, right? Because there's a certain awkwardness when you draw your combo pieces involved. Like, how does that work? How do you combo when you draw those pieces? Do you combo at all?
I mean, he might have to. If that was a Kiki that I saw, maybe I missaw that. I'm not quite sure. We cannot see the hands very well, but if that was a Kiki, then he might need to play it right now to then Vivien sacrifice the... What does Vivien say exactly? Does it?
It's a birthing pod effect. She has a +1 that sacrifices a creature and searches your library for a creature that costs 1 more.
1 more, so you can't find a creature that costs less?
I don't think so, no.
Yeah.
Almost certainly. Alright, so this, if Maya picks up any source of 2 additional points of damage, that's 1 additional point of damage.
That's 9. Oh, I see a Rancor.
Oh, there's another Rancor, so that's just lethal.
That is it?
Oh, man.
I mean...
Remember us talking about Maya passing the turns like 2 times in a row, being like, oh yeah, this is looking really grim. And now just sticking that Phyrexian Crusader, that's 11 points of infect damage right now. And Andrea cannot do anything about it. Maya doesn't even need to cast any instant speed spells through the Teferi, which she can't. Yeah. That's 11 points of damage.
It's actually 10 because I think Andrea has a Solitude, so he could remove 1 damage from the equation by killing the Hierarch. But nonetheless, Phyrexian Crusader. Usually we see blue-green Infect, and here we see Phyrexian Crusader taking home perhaps the win.
Yeah, we're having a judge call right now. So we'll see about that.
Sure. I'm not quite sure what could it be.
Yeah, because the Crusader has protection from red and white, so all the Rancors are legal. Maybe there's a question about like state-based actions, how the +2/+0 from Rancor interacts with the scale up. I'm not certain. Maybe that's the question.
Maybe.
We'll see if we can get more information on that. But for now, it's looking very much like a lethal attack.
We have a 10-4 Trampler here, as far as I can tell. Yeah. And that is 10 poison, and that is...
Alright, and with the attack, it becomes 11 poison.
Oh, what is Andrea going to do? Oh, he removes the Rancor, of course!
Yeah, indeed. So how can he cast that Prismatic Ending at instant speed?
He just plus his Teferi Time Raveler, of course.
So that's 9 points of infect damage.
Wow, yeah. Okay, wow, that is... it's not quite lethal.
That's certainly something. So Prismatic Ending, of course, with chromatic is the keyword? Convergence? I don't know. The amount of colored mana, the different colored mana spent on that card counts. So Andrea only had to pay 1 mana for the Prismatic Ending to exile the Rancor. Maya removing that from the graveyard there. And now
that was
Andrea gets another turn, and this could be a combo turn depending on what's in his deck.
We'll see.
Do you remember the old days of like Birthing Pod?
That was actually before. I mean, I just started when Birthing Pod got banned. I remember I played my first Modern tournament when Birthing Pod got banned 2 weeks after. So
and now there's an Aladamri's call being picked up, and that has to be huge for Andrea, right? There has to be some sort of answer in Andrea's deck.
Yeah, Oh
no, he's just going straight up for the combo here. So this is a Planebound Apprentice, something along those lines. 3 mana, 2/3 for 1 red. It puts a Planeswalker onto the battlefield. Never mind. I think Andrea's going for something different. Anyways, I'm going to continue explaining the apprentice. For 1 mana, it puts a planeswalker onto the battlefield, and the planeswalker has to be sacrificed at end of turn. So what that allows Andrea to do is put the Vivien in, and then start his kind of Vivien combo, because conveniently, the Vivien combo starts from a 3 mana creature going upwards. Let's see what Andrea goes for here. He does go for the apprentice. Let's go. My explanation was worth something because we do go for that creature. All right, let's see what happens here. An island added to the board, and now apprentice in hand.
Again, just taking a sweet time. I mean, as I said earlier, there might be a Kiki-Jiki in hand, so I don't...
There's at the very least a Karmic Guide in hand that we know of.
And I think it's a Kiki-Jiki as well, so that might make things more complicated in terms of how to combo off.
At the same time, it does allow Andrea to go for a lot of his creatures, and even if he can just cycle into... Oh no, Fury doesn't do it. The Crusader
has protection from red.
Yeah,
it covers all angles.
Omnath doesn't do it because that's red too. So I think Andrea will have to go for a fully fledged combo here somehow. And we will see how that works with some of the combo pieces already lingering in his hand. So we just got in the deck lists. Do we know how many Kiki-Jikis there are? How many Karmic Guides? There's 1 Kiki-Jiki. There's... what is that number? You should... Oh my goodness, you should take a look at this in the booth. That number is absolutely unreadable in front of the Karmic Guide. It could be a 1, it could be a 2, it could be a 50.
Yeah, but it is 1 Kiki-Jiki. It might be 2 Karmic Guide or 1. We are not quite sure here.
So now Vivien is being minused. Vivien minus. I didn't expect this to see this going into the game.
Oh, it makes a green 4/4 blocker, I believe.
And I believe we should exchange some batteries.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Some technical issues.
So Vivien's minus creates a 4/4 green Rhino Warrior token. Now 4/4 might be good enough, but remember, Andrea is on 9 Infect counters, and currently the Crusader is a 4/2 trampling creature because of the Rancor. So if the Exalted trigger of the Noble Hierarch goes through, then
we have 5 damage, and the Rhino can only prevent 4 of them because of trample. But as I said earlier, I think there's also a Solitude. I'm pretty sure there's a Solitude. So if Andrea can also remove the Ignoble Hierarch, we have a 4 power against the 4/4.
Yeah. So Andrea's line of play has to be remove the Hierarch to prevent the +1/+1, and then hope that his 4 toughness will be enough to prevent all of the damage of the Phyrexian Crusader.
Yeah, and that means that Andrea has to hope that Maya doesn't have any other pump spell. But as we can see here, it looks to be Maya 1-0 up to...
Oh, no. That's the total match score over the entire tournament.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Both of our players, of course, winning their first round here.
Yep.
I think we've paused the match so far. You can see we're doing our hardest to set up the camera again. Technical stuff, it always comes back to bite you. And while... There we go! I think we plugged in a charger. Nice. All right, so now the Rhino token can block the Phyrexian Crusader, and it's the only creature that can do so. Oops!
You saw that too?
Yeah. Now, the important thing for Maya to remember is to do this main phase.
Oh, because of the Teferi, yes.
If she just goes to combat, she thinks she's fine, right? The Ignoble Hierarch does everything. But if she goes to combat, the Solitude hits, she will no longer be able to cast the Mutagenic Growth. She has to do that right now. Let's see if she does.
2 mana is tapped, 3 mana.
Right, that's another Crusader, I think. Because she might be like, all right, I have to save this up for, I don't know, some corner case where she keeps it back for some reason. But we know that there's a Solitude lingering, and I feel like she's declaring attacks. Oh no. Oh no. This is not good at all. Now this gives Andrea another turn.
That doesn't work, no.
Yeah, that doesn't work, so now...
I mean, the static abilities, Nazet, Pot of Veils, Teferi, I always forget them too. You still forget them even if you play with these cards forever.
So now these both trade.
I believe it has first strike. Oh, yeah.
So it does. All right, so they don't trade. All right.
Yeah. So there's a Kiki Jiki in hand.
Yeah.
And there's a Felida Guardian on the battlefield.
So how does that work, Arne?
Well, you play Kiki Jiki, you target Felida Guardian with the ability, as you will excitingly see Andrea do it right now. And with Teferi in play, there's nothing to fear. And then you flicker your Kiki, it retaps, and it makes infinite 1/4.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for Maya. Like, these 0 mana evoke elementals can mess so much with your game plan. And then that in combination with the Teferi is very unfortunate, as the Phyrexian Crusader could have overtaken the game. But as it stands, Andrea up 1-0 over Maya.
Yeah. Nonetheless, I want to point out the fantastic choice of Maya playing black here with the Phyrexian Crusader. I mean, it looks fantastic against Furies, Solitudes, Prismatic Endings, Teferis, all the removal that sees play in these 4-color decks.
That Crusader almost like took over the game by itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, why don't we take a look at Maya's in total deck list, because bringing black green Infect to a tournament like this is, you know, it's not the usual Infect list we've been used to seeing for the past, I don't know, 5 years or so. It's usually always green, blue. So what are we working with here, Arne?
I see a Torpor Orb in the sideboard, which is absolutely fantastic against Andrea's deck. Stops all the Risen Reef, all the enter the battlefield triggers that Andrea will bring. That one certainly comes in. Stops the combo, of course, as well.
So there's also some additional protection. What do you think of cards like Vines of the Vastwood, Heroic Intervention, Veil of Summer? All of those are kind of there to protect your own creatures. Do you need that against Andrea's deck?
So looking at Maya's deck list, she already plays 6 protection spells, 4 Blossoming Defense and 2 Vines in the main deck. She could add 2 more Vines of the Vastwoods, but I believe, looking at her main deck, she just wants to keep it as straightforward as possible. Again, this is a race. She has to kill Andrea. So I think 6 protection spells might be enough, but I could see bringing in more Vines for example, Mutagenic Growth. That wouldn't be crazy to me.
Yeah, all right. So the protection in the main deck already kind of doing the job there. What do we have for Andrea besides any amount of comic guides that we can't tell, because that number could be a 1, 2, 3, 4. What do we have for Andrea's deck going on? We see a kind of classic 4-color combo shell, 4-color mid-range shell, you know, the Omnath deck you know and love, built around the Vivien combo. But what's going on in the sideboard between 3 Endurance, the Yorion we've already seen, some Flusterstorms, Night of Autumns, Veil of Summer, Magus of the Moon, another Boseiju, and
Lavinia Azorius Renegade.
Yeah, what would you bring in here against Infect?
So the first one is definitely the Boseiju. I think it's very important to have that one against the Inkmoth Nexus. I could also see bringing in the Endurance, because keyword, it's not red and not white.
So you could bring in Endurance just like as a 3-mana blocker.
Yes,
for the Crusader.
That is maybe a little bit of next level move, but perhaps Andrea thinks that this is his way to stop the Crusader, and sometimes he just needs that one block, or can also surprise a Crusader in combat.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's going to be hard to really catch one off guard, because it's going to have 4 power, right? And it does have first strike. Yeah. But at the same time, the thing you mentioned before we headed into the game still holds true. For Andrea, he just has to get to the combo, like throw everything under the bus.
Absolutely.
Just to arrive at his combo.
So these 4 Flusterstorms, they're not necessarily for this matchup, of course. They're when you're playing against counterspells, Flusterstorm is amazing. But nonetheless, the Infect deck is tight on mana. It activates Inkmoth Nexus. It won't have much mana up. And so you can Flusterstorm a protection spell. You can Flusterstorm a scale up. I would certainly bring... Or I would think that Andrea brings some copies of that card in as well to give himself some more protection.
Yeah, and Boseiju against the
Inkmoth Nexus.
Inkmoth Nexus makes sense too. So yeah, Andrea kind of looking for more interaction, ideally even non-white interaction, but yeah, the Crusader is going to give him a hard time either way. I want to have your opinion, Arne, on a very specific subject, which is sideboarding in Yorion decks. Like, what's your opinion on that? Like, how do you build your deck when you have Yorion and also want to facilitate a sideboard?
Well, I wouldn't make an incredible difference in that. Like, yes, 80 cards is more than 60 cards, but still, the normal strategy of sideboarding is still warranted. For example, people tell me sometimes, hey, maybe you don't want to have one-offs in your sideboard anymore, you want to have two-offs, etc. I don't think so. I think you can still have one-offs in your sideboard. You will still find them, especially with cards like Eladamri's Call.
Yeah, that's the kind of next thing I would like to talk about. Does it make sense to include more like of those silver bullets that you can tutor up with cards like Eladamri's Call or other tutors, because your deck is so huge? You can include those one-offs, but effectively you're playing 5 copies because you have 4 Eladamri's Call and the one-off. Does that?
Yeah, absolutely. The Magus of the Moon, the Lavinia Azorius Renegade, they look at that Eladamri's Call and become 5 offs all of a sudden when you bring them in. And you see this also in the main deck. We have 1 copy of Planebound Accomplice. Andrea's also playing 1 Endurance in the main deck. Just these nice tools that you can find with the Eladamri's Call to have for certain matchup. Or the Eladamri's Call looks absolutely fantastic in this deck and also a lot of fun to play.
I mean, it was certainly useful in game 1 where it tutored up the apprentice to kind of start the chain and then set up for the next turn.
I mean, it's amazing what the card does in this deck, especially with the evoke creatures. Yeah. Where you can, at instant speed, on 2 mana, you can find a Solitude if you need to kill a creature all of a sudden, or you can find an Endurance if you need to interact with the graveyard. It's pretty amazing.
All right, as we head into game 2, what do you think post-board? Who is favored in this matchup? What's your take on that?
I mean, I think winning the die roll is very, very important. So I would give Maya the advantage here, especially if she has a Phyrexian Crusade on turn 3.
As in fact, Maya does have to take a mulligan here. Only a single land in hand with, I think, 2 Phyrexian Crusaders or something.
Yeah.
But Andrea keeping his hand. Yeah, Maya obviously looking for a quick kill, and Andrea looking to interact with whatever creature Maya puts down early, because that's the way Infect beats you up, right? If they just get an unchecked creature down early on.
Yeah, I would look for Phyrexian Crusader. 3 lands, Phyrexian Crusader. That's all I need.
All right, and that's even an ignoble hierarch. If there's a Phyrexian Crusader amongst it,
there's 2 lands.
Oh no, I think that's a Besieger. So I don't think there's a Crusader, but there is an ignoble hierarch, a card that is often quoted as the best 1-drop in Infect, even though it doesn't have Infect.
All right, putting a card back.
Putting a card back, and now starting out on Forest into ignoble hierarch.
Oh, that's a fancy artwork too. All right, I see a Relic of Progenitors in Maya's hand. That just disrupts the Karmic Guide from getting back.
The Felidar Guardian. It certainly disrupts the combo for 1 turn. I imagine Vivien still will generate a lot of value overall. Andrea Mengucci going for a very aggressive Endurance here, exiling 1 of his 2 copies of Felidar Guardian. What do you make of that?
I mean, Andrea kept a 7. He's on the draw, so he has the resources against Maya mulliganing, and getting rid of the Hierarch could, for example, mean that, hey, Maya mulliganed, maybe she's Landlight, she has just a Forest and a Mana Dork. Therefore, getting rid of it makes sense to me.
Never mind that. Is that a basic swamp? The card we mistook for Boseiju, it's a foil, right, in Maya's hand? Kind of difficult to tell right now. What I do know is that Maya picked up a 2nd Relic of Progenitus, so she will probably crack the first one very aggressively to kind of cycle through her deck, right? Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, Andrea is, setting up his mana for future turns to kind of get his game plan going on, because right now I don't see any of the or even a Vivien in Andrea's hand.
The nice part about Andrea's deck is that he plays a lot of value cards, he plays 2-for-1s, he plays a lot of removal. So as long as the Phyrexian Crusader doesn't stick, he could also just play a sort of control game plan. He has that Yorion he can get back into his hand, he has, I believe, another Solitude in his hand. So he can just Yeah, play
Yeah,
a sort of mid-rangey control, answer your opponent's threat.
exactly. Take it slow and kind of, just as long as Maya doesn't present a threat, he's not under any pressure. As Glistener Elf comes down. Now, Glistener Elf is not a Phyrexian Crusader. It doesn't have protection from anything, and with Maya being tapped out, this is probably Andrea's opportunity to take out that Glistener Elf, because unlike last game, Andrea right now is not sitting pretty behind a Teferi, but decides to let Maya untap.
I'm not very good with these extra artworks, but I think I see an Endurance? We'll see. So maybe he's trying to ambush the Glistener Elf here.
Okay.
Another Relic of Progenitus.
Oh yeah, if there's an Endurance, this might end up badly. Oh yeah, yikes. That's gonna be a regretful attack. That's gonna be an attack that Maya will probably end up regretting, as this attack will not accomplish anything besides putting 2 -1/-1 counters on that Endurance. Yikes.
Endurance coming in, he has a surprise blocker. You would think it comes in for the graveyard matchups, but Andrea figured out that in this matchup, he might want that green flash blocker with reach.
Yep. So now, Andrea shuffling Maya's graveyard to the bottom of her library, and then probably moving to blocks.
Yeah, these Relic of Progenitus, they don't look so hot.
Yeah, unfortunately, Maya's also kind of stranded on mana. So, but I guess the Hierarch could crack one now. So let's see if she goes for that, because in my opinion, she needs a bit more action going on, right? Like she needs to find another Infect creature, some source of pressure going on. And in Mengu's hand, we see one of the crucial cards of this specific matchup. There's a Lightning Bolt. And Lightning Bolt, that one is able to take out the Phyrexian Crusader. Oh no, it's not. It once again has.
Jesus, the Crusader. It's a powerhouse. I mean, I'm absolutely loving the deck. The choice of playing black instead of blue here.
Yeah,
it is quite the card these days.
Yeah, black. The Crusader seems insane against all of the interaction that modern decks are packing.
Absolutely.
As the Lightning Bolt takes out the Ignoble Hierarch. And was that a Noble Hierarch picked up? We'll see in a second, I guess.
Yeah.
Damn, the Crusader, it just gets better and better. It doesn't get wiped by Omnath. It doesn't get Prismatic Ending, Solitude, Fury, Lightning Bolt.
Unholy Heat.
Yeah. All right. I'm not sure what the name of this card is, but I think it's a 2-mana 1/1 flying Infect creature.
We have, let me see, Plague Stinger.
Yeah, Plague Stinger, a classic from Scars of Mirrodin.
Yeah, I mean, look at Endurance. That is a flying creature, not like Blighted Agent, which is unblockable. So Endurance blocks that one too.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
It sure does.
Oh, what a top deck.
And Renin 6, maybe the best interactive spell from Andrea against the bulk of Maya's deck, where most of her creatures are 1 toughness creatures. So Maya has to be terribly unhappy about that. And it might be time to start cracking those relics to look for other creatures, because that Noble Hierarch will just get Renin 6'd next turn if you deploy it. And without it, like without any Infect creature, you have no pressure going at all.
Yeah, talk about Infect. I think since the introduction of Renin 6 into the modern format, Infect has certainly suffered from that.
Yeah,
one.
for sure. I mean,
all the 1 toughness creatures, it's a pain. And they're left behind with a great Planeswalker. Or killing more 1/1s. So, for example, if she has Ignoble Hierarch or Noble Hierarch in hand, playing them here, not a possibility anymore.
I mean, it certainly is a possibility. Maybe,
if
Andrea Mengucci can't minus Renin 6 forever without ever plussing, but yeah, it's...
Yeah, you grind yourself through.
Yeah, and now I was about to say, Andrea kind of with maybe a little action in hand, but he just picked up an Eladamri's Call, so he can just choose what kind of action he goes with here. So this one is looking very grim for Maya. But remember, we said the same last game, and then a Phyrexian Dreadnought came down.
Absolutely.
And Dreadnought.
Crusader.
Jeez.
That is a 1 mana 12 if I believe correctly. That would get Andrea right now too. 12 life.
Yeah, true. End of turn, Aladamri's Call is certainly going to get a useful creature, but it's becoming a bit less useful with the Torpor Orb in play.
What is Andrea going to get here?
Torpor Orb, of course, preventing any enters the battlefield triggers from happening. So even if Andrea gets an Omnath, which will still work with landfall, the Omnath entering the battlefield will not draw him a land. So Andrea hindered quite a bit by that Torpor Orb. I mean, you mentioned it during sideboarding that Torpor Orb is for sure going to come in for Maya. Now we see why.
Mm-hmm. And the Relic actually did some work here by exiling the fetch lands from the graveyard, so Ren 7 can't get a fetch land back. But looks like Andrea drew a fetch land, so he's good to go.
Oh, man. Yeah. Wait, do we know the wording of Torpor Orb? Because maybe if it's like permanence...
I think it's just creatures.
Yeah, it is. It is. Creatures entering... Alright. So if you fetch a Dryad Arbor, it wouldn't trigger Omnath.
Wow, Jamin coming in with the corner case situations.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I talked about that with Toffler recently. I'm the king of finding the corner cases. So don't fetch a Dryad Arbor into your Omnath when your opponent has a Torpor Orb. Now,
and then we have a 4/5 flyer.
Yeah,
legendary.
Pretty strong card.
Yeah.
And it's for free from your sideboard too. Like you pay 8 mana for a 4/5 flyer. What can go wrong?
Yeah, and as you can see, as I described earlier, Andrea's just not really going for any combo. He's just going to mid-range removal. Oh, there's the Crusader.
There's the Crusader! Dude, it is the exact same thing as last game. We were like, yeah, Maya is in a really tough spot. This is looking so bad. And then the Crusader came in. And this game, the exact same thing. Oh, Maya's in a tough spot. Torpor Orb shuts down the combo, shuts down the value game plan. Into Crusader. Now there's suddenly pressure. Now, there is still a fair bit of pressure from Andrea because Yorion does fly. So Yorion coming in for 4 is a 3-turn clock given the Renin 6 in Andrea's hand, right? Because Renin 6 can simply deal 1 to Maya's to Maya directly once. So this is going to be an interesting kind of race going on because, I mean, Infect can kill out of nowhere, but Andrea, like, Maya doesn't have any of the pieces in hand. So it's going to be exciting to see how that one plays out because this, has now just become a race.
Yes, and maybe no. Maybe this is the last turn of the game. Because I think I spotted a Vivien in hand. With the extra mana here, we can sacrifice the endurance and then go off.
Yeah, but that doesn't work. There's the Torpor Orb.
Oh my god. I apologize. I just saw that Vivien, I got excited for a moment, and I forgot about that state-based denial. Yep, that's why we have 2 in the booth. I mean, we've been just talking about the Torpor Orb. And
between Phyrexian Dreadnoughts coming in and comboing off through the Torpor Orb, we have proven that we are professional.
Absolutely.
But Vivien, of course, still coming down might make all the difference because it does give Andrea a second green blocker.
And it can continuously produce green blockers.
Yeah.
So...
for Peach Bolt pointing out that maybe a double Renin 6 ping could take down the Crusader. I made that mistake like 5 minutes ago. Yeah. No, Crusader has protection from red too. It just has protection from Andrea's deck, it feels like, except for the green tokens and endurance. So now Maya moving down to 9 life. That is a real threat by Andrea, and I don't really see Maya getting through the green creatures on Andrea's side, because remember, Vivien can create that token every turn now, that 4/4 token.
Yeah, it starts with a Rancor, and then maybe multiple scale-ups. So this has to be runner for Maya. She can crack that Relic of Progenitus to find herself another card.
That's another redraw. What do we see? There's a Veil of Summer and a card I couldn't quite make out. Okay, that's an Ignoble Hierarch. That's 1 point of power.
Yeah, I think Maya has to sacrifice the Relic here.
I agree. She might still be afraid of the combo, but I don't think, like, you cannot rely on, like, you can't play around, ooh, my Torpor Orb might get destroyed, so I have to save up the Relic. And this attack, this will just go badly, won't it? There's no pump spell?
If Veil of Summer is the only card left, this won't go well.
Yeah, I don't think... that did not seem like good attack because yikes. Now, all right, that's looking real bad because now Maya lost her greatest threat in the matchup, but is still sitting on that relic of Progenitus. And now Andrea has just won the race. That's actually just lethal on the spot, right? Because Hierarch can chump block Omnath, 4, 5.
Well, he can
9.
shoot down the Hierarch.
Oh yeah, true. Of course he can. It doesn't matter. So that's a lethal attack for Andrea, and that's Andrea moving up to 2-0 in Mateo's Modern Mondays Showdown. Because yeah, there's no blockers here. So we will be seeing more of that 4-color crazy Vivien combo deck going on in future rounds, and I'm excited for it.
Oh.
I hope also Simon, we saw Simon Nielsen last round. I hope he also, continues to do well here, because our Pro Tour champions have brought some spicy decks.
Oh, absolutely. Our pros, the Glimpse. I'm looking forward to see the Glimpse deck again.
Yeah,
from Simon. I hope
that was so fun to watch. But let's not waste any time because the backup match is still going, and we can move over there right now to see what they're up to. But in the meantime, congratulations to Andrea for moving up to 2-0.
Absolutely. Well done. Well played. That prismatic ending on the Rancor.
As we see Teamer Cascade matching up against Amulet Titan, we see that Titan is currently up 1-0 over Teamer Cascade. What do you think of the match up between, the Cascade deck and the Titan deck kind of in its current iteration?
I would say that the Titan deck has a leg up, especially in game 1. The Teamer Cascade doesn't have fantastic interaction in game 1 against the Titan deck.
I mean, which cards do you need to interact with out of the Titan deck?
Well, the Titan.
The Titan. All right. So how can you do that? Is there any way for Teamer Cascade to achieve that?
They have 4 Brazen Borrower, and they can use Ice from Fire Ice to tap it into combat.
To prevent something,
To prevent some shenanigans from happening. Yeah, the Brazen Borrower is important. It's a close matchup. And post-board, they bring in Subtlety and Magus of the Moon and Blood Moon. So this player is very much prepared for Titan, which, So game 1 was taken by Titan. I think that is to be expected. Game 1 looks to be good for Titan. But post-board...
Yeah, things might look a little differently as we see a Bone Crusher Giant in play. I think there's a Valakut trigger right now targeting. No? Yes, I think that's what's happening. The Dryad of the Ilsen Grove, of course, providing the Simic Growth Chamber with the basic land type mountain. So now the Valakut could take out the Bone Crusher Giant. So Valakut, of course, is quite threatening, but without a Titan, it's not quite crazy yet. So maybe Jay still has time to figure out a game plan to draw Blood Moon, do something against the synergies that Titan puts to the table.
Yeah, I mean it's looking good for leaving the situation.
Certainly does. I mean, yeah. Also, Dryad of the Ilsen Grove is just such a good enabler for everything this deck is trying to do.
Especially with Valakut, making all your lands become mountains, and then you have 2 land triggers coming in every turn.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you have bounce lands, you don't even need lands in your hand. You can return your bounce land over and over again to deal 3 damage.
Yep. As we move into Jay's turn. Now, these are some huge draw steps for Jay, right? Because any Blood Moon. Is there Blood Moons?
Yes, we have 2 Magus of the Moon and 2 Blood Moon. So that would override the Valakut, and therefore would cause no more free damage. So if Jay finds one of those, he might get back into this game. Yeah,
that being said, a Blood Moon does not work against Dryad, does it? Dryad will still grant all of the basic land types, is that correct?
I'm not 100% on that, but even so, it would turn off the Valakut, and that is the prime problem here.
Yeah.
So a Blood Moon would be very welcome for Jay. And he has to find it soon, because he's down at 7 life.
All right. And that's the match, right? Yeah, that's the match because I think the attack was just like that. I'm sorry. We're not certain what was going on there, but
might have been the Dryad plus more bolts to the face.
yeah. But there was no answer. Let's cut it short. There was no answer for Valakut. Valakut was taking over the game, and I mean, in the end, Valakut with 2 land drops every turn off the Dryad, you will be able to deal the damage at some point. As that concludes round 2 of Matteo's Modern Mondays Showdown, covered by Cardmarket. We've seen first we saw Andrea Mengucci move up to 2-0 by defeating Maya on Infect. Those were actually some tight games there. Like
Phyrexian Crusader, that is the MVP. If you want to play Infect again, might just leave that one out.
Yeah, like holy moly, that showing was insane. And our backup match, we only got the chance to jump in there ever so quickly because Vivien made quick work of Teamer Cascade. So we know that the Titan deck is 2-0. We know that Andrea Mengucci's 4-color value combo deck is 2-0. I'm excited to see what the later rounds bring. In the meantime, Arne, if you played, let's say you weren't here in the booth with me, like let's say you were playing this event, what would the deck be that you sleeved up, that you would have sleeved up for?
I haven't played much Modern lately, but one deck I had my eye on was by Canister, who played Grixis Death Shadow in one of the Modern challenges and took it down. That is up my alley, like disruptive, fast, aggressive, and it looks just very strong. Plays some of the best cards in Modern.
Yeah, like that. The best cards being
Thoughtseize, Unholy Heat. Ledger Shredder is a nice one.
All those cheap interactive kind of spells. Yeah. But we also do have right now the metagame breakdown for today ready for you. So we'll jump into that in a second because it's interesting to see. These players have played leagues for weeks, right? They know their decks, they know the other decks, and they're kind of now playing their showdown of that league, right?
This is the culmination of the work, the time they put into this, and this is what they brought for the big showdown event, so the most important tournament.
Yeah, exactly. So we see 4-color Omnath leading the pack. That's kind of what you would expect, right?
I honestly, I'm not sure. I would think that in paper it's even more difficult to get this deck together, but apparently the Berlin crew has the cards for that one. We see Amulet Titan, Grixis Shadow, Murktide, Burn, and Hammer, and Prowess, and Rakdos all at 6.3%.
I mean, out of those, it's a crazy coincidence that there's apparently all the same numbers of those players. Out of those, which ones kind of stand out to you as like unexpected inclusions in a metagame breakdown for a high-level tournament?
Rakdos midrange, I must say, I would not expect, but otherwise, this sort of shows us the diversity that Modern has. I mean, this slide here, Modern is very diverse since the Lurrus banning, and there's lots of decks that just all rock, paper, scissors each other. They all have their points of advantage and the downsides too. And it's great to see the format be fairly diverse. I mean, 15.6% Omnath, but otherwise, loving this. And we have 40% others as well.
So we're going to see exciting games today because we're not going to just see the same decks every round. I mean, we also have some people working behind the scenes to give us the most exciting matches, every round. But with that being said, this was it for round 2. We'll be back with round 3 rather soon. In the meantime, you get to look at the metagame breakdown and some deck lists. And next round, Arne will be back with Toffel and I will be stepping out.
All right. See you then, guys.